Have you ever noticed how the things we take for granted often hold the most value until they're gone? It's human nature. The moment something becomes scarce, we start to pay attention. We crave what we can't have, what feels just out of reach. And that principle applies to relationships just as much as anything else in life. When you ghost him completely, when you pull back, something fascinating happens. Suddenly, the same person who barely made an effort, who took you for granted, who acted like he could text you on his time, call you when it was convenient, and see you only when it suited him, now he feels the shift. He might not even understand it right away, but deep down something clicks. Because here's the truth. We don't value what's always available. When something is constantly in front of us, we assume it will always be there. Think about it. You don't wake up every morning obsessing over the air you breathe because it's always there. But if you were suddenly struggling to catch your breath, it would become the only thing you could focus on. This is exactly how people operate in relationships. When your presence is guaranteed, when your time, attention, and energy are handed over without any effort on his part, it starts to lose its weight. But the moment you take it away, when you go silent, he feels it. He notices the gap. And that gap creates curiosity, intrigue, even anxiety. This is why ghosting, completely withdrawing your attention, is such a powerful move. It forces him to stop and think, not just about you, but about himself, about what role he played in losing you. Because here's the key, when you step back, it's no longer about whether you were enough, whether you did something wrong, whether you should have tried harder. It's about whether he was showing up in a way that deserved you in the first place. And when he realizes you're not there, he's forced to confront the reality that maybe, just maybe, he messed up. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment you disappear, he doesn't just feel your absence, he starts to romanticize. Because that's what we do. We fill in the blanks with the best possible version of reality. Suddenly, he's not thinking about the times he took you for granted. He's thinking about the way you laughed at his jokes, the way you made him feel important, the way you were always there when he needed someone. And as that realization sinks in, something shifts inside him. He starts to crave what he no longer has access to. Now, does this mean every guy will come running back? No. And that's the beauty of it. Because if he doesn't, if your absence doesn't bother him, if he doesn't care that you've pulled away, then he was never invested in the first place. And that's information you need. That's the clarity you've been looking for. Because the only men who deserve a place in your life are the ones who notice your worth when you're there and fight for you when you're not. But let's talk about what happens when he does notice. When he does start to feel your absence, you might find that suddenly he's reaching out. Suddenly he's texting more, calling more, trying to make plans. And you might be tempted to think, see, it worked. But here's the thing. You don't want a man who only realizes your value because he lost you. You want a man who never took you for granted in the first place. So the goal here isn't just to get his attention, it's to see if he's willing to change, to step up, to show you consistently that he understands your worth. And if he does, great. But if he doesn't, you haven't lost anything. In fact, you've gained something incredibly valuable, your power. You've shown yourself that you don't need to chase, you don't need to beg for attention, you don't need to convince someone to appreciate you. You are enough as you are. And the right person will recognize that without needing to lose you first. So, the next time you feel yourself overextending, over-explaining, trying to prove your worth to someone who isn't meeting you halfway, stop, pull back, ghost him completely, and watch what happens next. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have in your arsenal. Most people underestimate its power because they feel like they need to fill the void with explanations, justifications, or attempts to be understood. But the truth is, sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is no statement at all. When you ghost someone who has been taking you for granted, when you remove yourself from the equation completely, something fascinating happens. See, when you're constantly available, always replying, always reaching out, always there to fix things, what you're doing without even realizing it is giving that person a sense of security that they haven't earned. They start to assume that no matter what they do, no matter how little effort they put in, you'll still be there. And in that moment, you become predictable. You become easy to take for granted. And when someone takes you for granted, they stop valuing you the way they should. But the moment you pull back, when you stop initiating, when you stop replying, when you go completely silent, you shift the dynamic. Suddenly, there's an empty space where you used to be. And that space is loud. It's deafening. Because now they have to sit with it. They have to wonder why you're not there anymore. They have to question whether they lost you. And that moment of uncertainty is often the thing that forces someone to finally evaluate what you meant to them in the first place. What's even more interesting is how they react. Because you see, if someone truly cares about you, if they value your presence in their life, that silence will hit them like a wake-up call. They'll feel it and they'll come back. Not out of convenience, not because they suddenly need something, but because they realize what they had. They'll start to see the effort you were putting in, the value you were bringing, and they'll realize just how much they miss it. On the other hand, if they don't care, if they were just enjoying the attention, the validation, the comfort of having you around without truly investing in you, then your silence will simply reveal the truth. They'll let you go without a second thought. And as painful as that might feel in the moment, it's actually the best thing that could happen to you. Because now you have clarity. Now you don't have to waste any more time wondering where you stand or hoping for someone to change. They've already given you the answer through their inaction. And that's the part most people struggle with. They don't want that answer. They don't want to face the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this person never cared as much as they did. But the truth is, wouldn't you rather know? Wouldn't you rather stop giving your energy to someone who was never truly invested in you to begin with? Because the alternative, continuing to pour into someone who isn't pouring back, is far worse. It drains you. It chips away at your self-worth. It keeps you stuck in a cycle where you're constantly chasing validation instead of standing firm in your own value. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They try to use silence as a manipulation tactic. They think, okay, if I ghost him, he'll panic and come running back. And while it's true that some people do come back out of fear of losing control, that's not what we're aiming for here. You're not going silent to manipulate. You're going silent to protect your peace. You're going silent because you refuse to participate in a dynamic where you're the only one showing up. You're going silent because you deserve more than breadcrumbs. And if someone isn't willing to meet you at your level, then they don't deserve access to you at all. And let's talk about the emotional reaction, because I know what you're thinking. But if I stop responding, won't he just forget about me? And that's the fear, isn't it? That if you pull back, you'll become irrelevant. That if you disappear, he'll just move on. But let me ask you this. If someone can forget about you that easily, were they ever really yours to begin with? If you removing your presence doesn't create any kind of shift in their behavior, doesn't make them stop and think, doesn't make them reconsider how they've been treating you, then what are you actually holding on to? See, the right person isn't going to let you slip away so easily. The right person isn't going to sit in your silence and think, oh, well, I guess that's that. No, the right person is going to feel the difference. They're going to recognize the absence of your energy, your kindness, your effort, and they're going to step up, because that's what people do when they truly care. They don't just let you go. They don't wait for you to come back to them. They come to you. And let's be clear, this isn't about playing games. It's about setting a standard for how you deserve to be treated. If someone is inconsistent, if they're only showing up when it's convenient, if they're making you feel like an afterthought, then removing yourself isn't childish. It's not dramatic. It's a declaration of self-worth. It's you saying, I am not an option. I am not here to beg for your attention. If you want to be in my life, show up. If you don't, then I'm gone. Because at the end of the day, you don't want someone who's only there because they're afraid of losing you. You want someone who's there because they see your value, because they respect you, because they actively choose you every single day. And the only way to know if someone is truly willing to do that is by stepping back and giving them the space to show you. So ghost him. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but to reclaim your power, to remind yourself that you never needed to chase in the first place, to create the space for the right person, the one who doesn't need silence to realize your worth, to come in and love you the way you deserve. And when that happens, you'll look back at this moment and realize that the best decision you ever made was walking away from someone who never truly saw you in the first place. If you really want to know where you stand with someone, remove yourself. Don't send that text. Don't reach out. Don't ask him how his day was. Just stop, disappear, and watch. What happens next tells you everything. See, when you ghost him completely, you're not playing games. You're not trying to manipulate. You're simply stepping back and creating space. And in that space, something incredible happens. His true intentions surface. If he's genuinely interested in you, you'll see it. He won't let the silence stretch for too long. He'll notice the absence. He'll feel it. And if he values you, he'll step up. He'll reach out. He'll make the effort, because men, people in general, don't let go of what they truly want. They don't risk losing what matters to them. When someone is invested in you, they don't just let you disappear without a fight. That's the truth. But here's the part that stings a little. If he doesn't come looking for you, if he doesn't check in, if he doesn't notice your absence, then he was never really there in the first place. He was physically present, sure. He sent you the texts. He made you feel wanted when it was convenient for him. But was he really invested? Because if someone genuinely wants to be with you, they won't just let you go without a word. And that's where the magic of stepping back comes in. It forces reality to reveal itself. You don't have to guess where you stand anymore. The answer is in the silence. Now, let's talk about the moments that make this hard. Because I know what you're thinking. You're saying, but what if he's just busy? What if he assumes I need space? What if he thinks I'm the one who lost interest? Let me tell you something. When someone cares, they clarify. When someone truly values you, they don't sit around making excuses in their head. They don't think, oh, maybe she's over me, so I should just stay silent. No. They reach out, they check in, they don't risk the chance of losing someone they see as important in their life. And this is exactly why ghosting him completely is not about playing a game. It's about getting a real answer. It's about stripping away all the illusions, all the maybes, all the potential, and just seeing the truth for what it is. Because it's easy to get caught up in potential. It's easy to hold on to a version of someone that exists only in our minds. We make excuses. We tell ourselves, he's different when we're together. He's sweet. He's affectionate. Maybe he's just not great at texting. Maybe he's got a lot going on right now. But do you really want a relationship where you have to keep justifying why someone isn't showing up for you? Do you want a connection that only works when you're the one keeping it alive? No, you don't. Because deep down, you want someone who is sure about you, who doesn't need to be reminded of your worth, who doesn't need to lose you to realize they want you. You deserve someone who sees your absence and doesn't hesitate to fill that space with effort. Not someone who lets the silence linger like you were never there to begin with. Here's another important thing. When you step back and he doesn't step forward, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's not about you not being enough. It's about him not being the right person. And that's where most people get stuck. They take his lack of effort as a personal rejection. They think, if I were prettier, funnier, more interesting, maybe he'd care. But the truth is, the right person will care because of who you are, not because of who you're trying to be. And this is why this process is so powerful. It frees you. It frees you from uncertainty. It frees you from waiting around for someone who was never planning to show up. It frees you from pouring energy into a connection that isn't reciprocated. Because the moment you stop trying to make it work, the moment you remove yourself, you see the truth. And yes, sometimes that truth is painful, but it's also a gift. Because knowing where you truly stand allows you to move forward. It allows you to stop wasting your time. It allows you to redirect your energy towards someone that actually aligns with what you deserve. And let me tell you something, this shift, it's magnetic. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to prove your worth, you radiate confidence, you exude self-respect, and people feel that. The right person feels that. And suddenly, you're no longer in a position where you're waiting for someone to validate you. You validate yourself. You become the one who chooses. You become the one who decides who gets access to you. So ghost him completely, not to manipulate, not to test him, but to free yourself from the guessing game, to let the truth rise to the surface, to give yourself the clarity you deserve. And once you have that clarity, you'll never question your worth again. Think about how much time you've spent waiting for him to text back, waiting for him to make up his mind, waiting for him to realize your worth. You sit there replaying every conversation, analyzing every emoji, wondering if you should reach out first or give it more time. And all the while, your mind is consumed by one thing, what he's thinking. But what about what you're thinking? What about how you feel? The moment you ghost him, everything shifts. Because for the first time, instead of waiting for him, you're choosing you. When you stop reaching out, something incredible happens. You break the cycle of needing validation from someone who isn't giving it freely. You stop basing your self-worth on whether or not he responds. And in doing that, you take back control, not of him, but of yourself. You're no longer operating from a place of scarcity, where you feel like you have to hold on to whatever crumbs of attention he throws your way. You move into a place of abundance, where you realize that your value isn't something to be proven, it's something to be recognized. This is where most people get it wrong. They think control means getting him to react, making him chase, or proving a point. But real control isn't about manipulation. It's about emotional freedom. It's about no longer being held hostage by someone else's inconsistency. It's waking up in the morning and realizing that your mood doesn't depend on whether or not his name pops up on your phone. It's about standing so firmly in your own worth that his actions, or lack of them, no longer dictate your peace of mind. Now, here's the part that might surprise you. The moment you ghost him, when you fully pull away, that's when he feels your absence. Not when you send that last emotional text. Not when you say, fine, I'll leave you alone, hoping he'll stop you. Not when you make a dramatic exit, but secretly keep checking if you watched your story. No, he feels it when you disappear completely, when you stop waiting, when you stop reacting, when he realizes that for the first time you're no longer an option he can come back to whenever he feels like it. And here's the best part. You don't even have to wonder if it's working. You don't have to sit there hoping he'll notice or stressing about when he might come back, because when you finally take back control, something far more powerful happens. You stop caring whether he does or not. You begin to redirect that energy back into yourself. You start focusing on the things that actually make you happy, the people who genuinely appreciate you, and the goals that move your life forward. The moment he senses that shift, he'll either step up or fade away completely. And either way, you win. Because if he steps up, it's because he realizes what he stands to lose. And if he doesn't, you now see with absolute clarity that he was never going to give you what you deserved in the first place. That's the power of taking back control. It's not about him. It's about you. When you let go of someone who isn't valuing you, you're not just walking away from a person. You're making space for something better. And I don't just mean another relationship. I mean something bigger than that. You're making space for a life where you are respected, where you are pursued, where you no longer have to chase after someone who never fully showed up for you in the first place. The problem is so many of us hold on because we're afraid. We're afraid that if we walk away, if we truly let go, we'll end up alone, We think, but what if this is as good as it gets? And that fear keeps us stuck in a situation that deep down we know isn't fulfilling us. It keeps us answering those late night texts. It keeps us saying, maybe he'll change, even when all the evidence suggests otherwise. But let's be honest, has he ever really given you what you need? Have you ever felt truly secure, truly prioritized? Or have you just been surviving on crumbs, hoping one day he'll wake up and see your worth? Because if you have to keep proving your worth to someone, if you have to keep reminding them why they should want you, then you've already lost. There's a moment that happens when you finally decide to let go. It's not instant. At first, it's terrifying. You feel the emptiness, the void where this person used to be. You second guess yourself. You wonder if you made a mistake. And then something shifts. Suddenly, your time is yours again. Your energy is no longer wasted analyzing every text, every missed call, every hot and cold moment that used to keep you on edge. Instead, you begin to reinvest that energy into yourself. You start to feel lighter. You remember what it feels like to be at peace. You rediscover your confidence, not because someone else validates you, but because you validate yourself. And here's the magic. When you do this, everything changes. When you stop chasing, when you stop waiting around for someone to figure out how they feel about you, you send a powerful message, not just to them, but to yourself. You show that you are not an option, not a backup plan, not someone to be half loved. And guess what? That's when the tables turn. That's when the person who took you for granted starts to feel your absence. Because they were never worried about losing you before. They always assumed you'd be there, answering their messages, picking up the pieces when they disappeared and came back when it was convenient. But now, they're left with nothing but silence. And silence is loud. It forces them to confront what life looks like without you. They start to wonder where you went, why you're not responding, why you're not chasing. And that's when regret kicks in. They might come back. They might try to test the waters, throw you a breadcrumb to see if you'll take the bait. But here's where your power lies. You don't need to take the bait because you've already moved on to something better. And when I say something better, I don't just mean another person. I mean a better version of your life. A life where you are cherished, where you are prioritized, where you are not spending your days over-analyzing someone who isn't even thinking about you. A life where your energy is given to things that fulfill you, relationships that nourish you, and experiences that bring you joy. The best part? The moment you start living like this, you become magnetic. You don't need to chase because you attract. You exude confidence, self-respect, and a sense of worth that people can't help but notice. And that's when the right people who see your value from the start, begin to show up. So if you're holding on to someone who keeps you questioning, keeps you in a state of uncertainty, keeps you feeling like you have to prove yourself, let go. Create that space. Because when you do, you'll be amazed at what rushes in to fill it. When you step back completely, something fascinating happens. You create a vacuum. And nature, human nature, doesn't like a vacuum. When you pull away, he feels it. He notices the absence of your presence, your texts, your attention. And that's when the real test begins. If he truly cares, he won't just feel that absence. He'll act on it. He'll start questioning, wondering, replaying moments in his mind. He might not have noticed before, but suddenly he sees all the little things you brought into his life, the warmth of your energy, the way you listened, the effortless support you gave him without asking for anything in return. It hits him in the quiet moments, in the space where your presence used to be. And if he does care, if he truly values you, this is the moment where he either steps up or gets left behind. You don't need to say a word. Your silence is louder than any conversation you could ever have. Because if he's a man who actually wants something real, he won't let you just slip away. He won't let the best thing in his life just walk out the door without making the effort to pull it back. But what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't chase, doesn't reach out, doesn't fight for you? Then you have your answer. And instead of seeing that as a painful rejection, you should see it as a gift. Because the truth is, you are never going to get what you deserved from someone who doesn't even notice when you're gone. If he can live without you, then he was never truly with you in the first place. And I know that can sting. Because deep down, we want to believe that if we give enough, if we love enough, if we show up enough, we can make someone see our worth. But that's not how it works. You don't convince someone to value you. You don't persuade them into treating you right. They either do or they don't. And if they don't, your silence makes that clear in a way words never could. So what happens next? If he doesn't come running, if he doesn't step up, something else starts to shift. You start to heal. You realize that by pulling away, you weren't just testing his feelings. You were also giving yourself the space to see things clearly, to break free from the illusion that you needed his validation to feel worthy. And that's where your real power begins. Because here's the reality. Men can feel regret, but not all men will act on it. Some will regret losing you, but their pride, their ego, their laziness will keep them from doing anything about it. And that's not your problem. That's their loss. And don't be surprised if one day, weeks or months down the line, he suddenly reaches out. The late night hey text, the casual how have you been message, because once he sees you moving on, once he realizes you've stopped revolving around him, that's when it really sinks in. And let me tell you something, that moment is not about him. It's about you. It's about whether you even care anymore. And if you've truly stepped into your worth, if you've used that time to build yourself up rather than wait around, then his message won't excite you. It won't make your heart race. It will feel like exactly what it is. Too little, too late. Because by then, you'll have moved into a different league. You'll have realized that love isn't about waiting for someone to wake up and see your value. It's about being with someone who recognized it from the start. And when you become the person who holds themselves to that standard, you stop worrying about whether he regrets losing you. Because the truth is, he does. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually he'll look back and realize what he had. But by then, you'll be long gone.